Good evening, and welcome to the Mystical Carousel show. And tonight it is just myself and Lynn. Lois is in the background, hiding out the way because she's still not feeling 100%. So we'll let her off tonight. But tonight we're going to be talking about UFOs and time slips. Now, whether UFOs and time slips are linked together or can be classed as a separate thing. We are going to discuss this and find out from either reported incidences or incidences that we may have personally had. I've got one personal experience that I will be sharing at some point this evening, which has sort of scared us quite a little bit, not to say the least. So UFOs and time slips. Now, we know that a lot of people who have claimed to have been abducted in the past have been brought back either spot on the time that they have been removed from wherever they are. But in other cases, some people have been taken and brought back some considerable time later with no recollection of what has happened to them. And I will refer to probably one of the biggest cases known, which was turned into a major Hollywood film, Fire in the Sky.
Yes.
And that is the case of Travis Walton. And Travis Walton and his team were working as lumberjacks out in the forests. And on their way home, they were all travelling in one vehicle, and on the way home they saw something in the forest, and they stopped to have a look to see what it was. And Travis Walton himself got a little bit too close, and the rest of them, they obviously shot off. Travis Walton was abducted, and it was 7 days before he was returned, and he was found at a cafe. He'd managed to make his way to a loggers cafe, where he phoned the authorities, and someone came and picked him up. From then onwards, it was an investigation as to what had happened to him, why he had disappeared for 7 days. He disappeared on November the 5th. I think it was 1970. Let me have a look. I'm going to have a peruse, but it was 1970 something.
Was it 76 or 78, something like that?
I'm 1975. November the 5th, 1975. He was reported missing. And straight away, the teams were sent out to try and find him. By November the 7th, a search party of 50 people had literally scoured the area of Turkey Springs, and they failed to find him. Nobody knew. There was no signs of any sort of violence or muggings or anything like that. So obviously they had to then look at who was involved. They knew that one person out of the team didn't like him all that much, but he swore his innocence. The newspapers covered the story, and everything was literally all pinning on what had happened to him, who had abducted him. Now, whether it was one of the team or not, they didn't know. And eventually, polygraph tests were done on all of them, and basically all bar one was 100% pure. They hadn't lied. One of them was a bit of an iffy result. Wasn't too sure, but they were convinced he knew nothing about it, and they all denied harming Travis. So 5 out of the 6 men were being truthful and described results for the 6th man, Alan Dallas, as inconclusive. So they weren't too sure on him. But on November the 12th, shortly after midnight, Walton placed a collect call to his sister's home from a payphone in Arizona. He reached her husband, Grant Neff, who then drove to pick up Dwayne and Swede to Herber to pick up Travis. and later reported that he initially thought the caller was intoxicated. As part of the collect call procedure, Travis told the operator his name. She recognised the name as that of the missing man and alerted the local Sheriff Gillespie, who dispatched a deputy to the family ranch house. The deputy, Glenn Flake, arrived at 2 a.m., where he witnessed Dwayne Walton transferring fuel from one car to another after having forgotten to purchase gas before local stations closed. He didn't reveal that he knew Travis had returned home, and Dwayne did not tell the deputy that Travis had been found. Seeking medical attention for Travis, Dwayne reached out to a UFO researcher he'd met days prior. The researcher referred them to Dr. Lester Stewart, a hypnotherapist. Dwayne took Travis to meet with Stewart, but his first words were that Travis needed a medical examination with lab tests and was not ready for hypnotic regression. He noted that Travis seemed very confused and reminiscent of drug addicts he treated. Stewart also noted that Travis had a small lesion on the inside crease of his right elbow, consistent with intravenous drug use. After meeting with Stewart, the Waltons returned to Dwayne's home, where UFO researchers arranged a house call by two medical doctors who were also amateur UFO investigators. When they arrived at 3 p.m., Dwayne forbade them to use their camera or tape recorder, nor would he allow them to ask Travis questions about his experience. So all of this profiling was going on in the time that he'd vanished. But obviously, when it came to doing the regression, he came out with things that startled the medical community. Nobody knew what they were going to experience from his testimony. Right. And he swore blind that he was taken aboard a craft and he was experimented on.
Right.
A number of people have also reported that when they have been abducted and brought back, they have had funny markings on their bodies. Some people have had little thin slithers of metal inserted under their skin.
Right.
And a lot of people have said the only way you can describe this is what they call the contraceptive rod that some ladies have.
Yes, the ladies that have them in their arm, aren't they?
It gets put in the arm.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to one of those, but a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But under analysis, they discovered that this metal they used was not of around here. It was a very difficult material to manufacture using our methods.
Right.
But it was there. Some people have said that there's been like a cable coming out from underneath it.
Oh.
Which could only be described as an antenna of some sort. So like a locator. But then there's a week missing. He'd been gone for an entire week.
My question to that would be, because I've seen the adverts, I've seen interviews for years. I think everybody's seen something about it, even if it's not in depth. Now, if he was with his mates in the woods or the forest, whatever it was, did they witness him being taken?
Yes.
So if they all witnessed it, did they give statements straight away?
If I can remember the story correctly, as soon as they got back to the local town, they reported him missing. Evening, Andy. They reported him missing almost immediately as soon as they got back into the local town. And that was when, people all of a sudden sort of got themselves together and sort of put themselves through for what do they call it? Search parties.
Yes, yeah.
So they had said that apparently they had witnessed him. Bear with me a second. Ooh. They had witnessed him disappearing.
Right.
They could see him from the truck that they were in. And all they saw was a bright light surrounding him, and then he started to lift up into the air, and then he vanished.
Wow.
So
it makes you wonder, Wayne, right? If you're in a car, right, and you're witnessing your mate, it was in the night time, obviously, because it was a bright light. It most probably was at night time. Now, if he wouldn't have gone out to go and see that light, would that have gone over to the car?
that's sort of, in a way, they're hypothetical theories, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, if they'd have just ignored it and gone, oh, it's just a light, it's probably someone with a camping stove or something, and just carried on driving, would that light then have come out to the track and followed their vehicle?
Yeah.
And maybe taken all of them?
Yeah.
Or did whatever was in that craft know that someone was going to come towards them?
Yeah.
As you know, like they're the bait, and someone was going to be nosy enough to come over and have a look. You know, it's primarily the witness testimonies against everybody else. You know, you can say, I saw a UFO, this is what I saw, this was when I saw it, and this is how it happened. And if you were to come forward and say something, you'd have people will ridicule you. Some people will believe you. You might even end up with the Men in Black turning up at your door saying, you didn't see anything, keep it quiet, or your life's at risk. You know, it's analysing everything. But the Travis Walton case was one of many such high-profile cases that it couldn't just be ignored. And that's why Hollywood got their hands on it and highlighted the fact. But to a lot of people, that is a fictional film. A lot of people don't realise that it's based on true events.
True events, yeah. I think it's amazing, to be honest with you. This time loss and everything. It's like you say, some people, if they're taken and they end up back at the same time, what kind of a feature does that mean? Does it mean time travel?
Well, in a lot of the cases that have been reported where people have been taken, they've been brought back. It can be anything from a couple of hours later to a couple of days later to a couple of weeks later. And they turned up in the most bizarre places. Some people have been taken and then brought back, but they've been further down the road and they don't remember how far they've gone. They don't remember traveling that set distance, and they're like, well, how have I got here? And I think one of the biggest ones, which was before Travis Walton, was the Betty and Barney Hill incident.
Hello.
You know, and Barney and Betty Hill, they were an American couple who claimed that they'd been abducted by extraterrestrials in a rural portion of the state of New Hampshire from September the 19th to the 20th in 1961.
Yeah.
The incident came to be called the Hill abduction and the Zeta Reticuli incident because two ufologists connected the star map shown to Betty Hill with the Zeta Reticuli system. Their story was adapted in the best-selling book in 1966 called The Interrupted Journey, and 1975 television film, The UFO Incident.
Right.
And most of Betty Hill's notes, tapes, and other items have been placed in the permanent collection at the University of New Hampshire. And in July 2011, the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources marked the site of the alleged craft's first approach with a historical marker. Littles, you could come in. Now, according to a variety of reports given, oh hello,
You're all right.
Yeah, my phone stands drunk.
Oh.
Hang on. Prop it up with the tomato ketchup. There we go. some Heinz. Oh, there we go again. Right. Stop acting so drunk, you stupid phone.
Behave yourself, yeah.
There we go. Right. According to a variety of reports given by the Hills, the alleged UFO sighting happened at 10:30 p.m. on September the 19th, 1961. The Hills were driving back to Portsmouth from a vacation in Niagara Falls and Montreal. Just south of Lancaster, New Hampshire, Betty claimed to have observed a bright point of light in the sky that moved from below the moon and the planet Jupiter upward to the west of the moon. While Barney navigated US Route 3, Betty reasoned that she was observing a falling star, only it moved upward. Because it moved erratically and grew bigger and brighter, Betty urged Barney to stop the car for a closer look, as well as to walk the dog. Barney stopped at a scenic picnic area just south of Twin Mountain. Betty, looking through binoculars, observed an odd-shaped craft flashing multicoloured lights travel across the face of the moon. Because her sister had several years earlier said she had seen a flying saucer, Betty thought it might be what she was observing. Through binoculars, Barney observed that he reasoned was a commercial airliner travelling towards Vermont on its way to Montreal. However, he soon changed his mind because without looking as if it had turned, the craft rapidly descended in his direction. This observation caused Barney to realise this object that was a plane was not a plane.
Yeah.
The Hills said they continued driving on the quiet, isolated road, moving very slowly through the Franconia Notch in order to observe the object as it came even closer. At one point, the object passed above a restaurant and signal tower on top of Cannon Mountain and came out near the Old Man of the Mountain. Betty testified that it was at least 1.5 times the length of the granite cliff profile, which was 40 foot long, and that it seemed to be rotating. The couple watched as the silent, illuminated craft moved erratically and bounced back and forth in the night sky. About 1 mile south of Indian Head, they said the object rapidly descended towards their vehicle, causing Barney to stop in the middle of the highway. The huge, silent craft hovered about 80 to 100 feet above the hills. The 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air and filled the entire field of view in the windshield. It reminded Barney of a huge pancake. That's nice. Carrying his pistol in his pocket, he stepped away from the vehicle and moved closer to it. Using the binoculars, Barney claimed to have seen 8 to 11 humanoid figures who were peering into the craft's windows, seeming to look directly at him. In unison, all but one figure moved to what appeared to be a panel on the rear wall of the hallway that encircled the front portion of the craft. The one remaining figure continued to look at Barney and communicated a message telling him to stay where you are and keep looking.
Oof.
Barney had a recollection of observing the humanoid forms wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Red lights on what appeared to be bat wing fins began to telescope out of the sides of the craft, and a long structure descended from the bottom of the craft. It then approached to what Barney estimated was within 50 to 80 feet overhead and 300 feet away from him. On October 21st, 1961, Barney reported to National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena investigator Walt Webb that the beings were somehow not human.
Wow.
But again, they didn't arrive home until around dawn the following day.
Yeah.
And they said that they'd felt some odd sensations and impulses they could not really explain. Betty insisted that her luggage be kept near the back door rather than in the main part of the house. Their watches had stopped working and would never work again.
Wow.
Barney said that the leather strap for the binoculars was torn, though he could not recall it ever tearing. The toes of his best dressed shoes were scraped, and Barney says he was compelled to examine his genitals in the bathroom, though he found nothing unusual. They took long showers to remove possible contamination, and each drew a picture of what they had observed.
Wow.
So even 10 days after the alleged UFO encounter, Betty began having a series of vivid dreams, which continued for 5 successive nights. She stated that she experienced them with a degree of detail and intensity that she had never had before. After the 5th night, they stopped and never reoccurred. Though they occupied her thoughts during the day, when she mentioned them to Barney, he was sympathetic but not too concerned, and the matter was dropped. And Betty never mentioned them to Barney ever again.
Wow.
In November 1961, Betty began writing down the details of her dreams, and in one dream, she and Barney encountered a roadblock and men who surrounded their car. She lost consciousness, but struggled to regain it. Then she realised that she was being forced by 2 small men to walk in a forest at night, and of seeing Barney walking behind her, though when she called to him, he seemed to be in a trance or sleepwalking.
Wow.
The men stood about 5 feet to 5 feet 4 inches tall and wore matching blue uniforms with caps similar to those worn by military cadets. They appeared nearly human, with black hair, dark eyes, prominent noses and bluish lips. Their skin was a greyish colour.
Oh.
She and Barney were taken to their car, where the leader suggested that they wait to watch the craft's departure. They did so and then resumed their drive home.
So these are her dreams then she's having
And
now.
this was in her dreams. But
Yeah.
now we get to the good bit. Having read Webb's initial report, which was the people that obviously were undergoing the investigation, Jackson and Homan had many questions for the Hills. One of their main questions was about the length of their trip. Although the Hills had noted that they had arrived home later than anticipated, it was a 178-mile drive, should have taken about 4 hours. They did not realise that they had arrived home 7 hours after their departure from Colebrook.
Wow.
When Homan and... Oh, excuse me, sorry?
7 hours. It's a long time, isn't it?
And I mean, even 7 hours is it's a hell of a long time to be driving for.
Yeah.
I know as a coach driver, we only used to drive for 4 hours, maximum 4.5 hours before we had 3/4 of an hour break.
Yeah.
And we could drive for a maximum of 9 hours in a day. And even then, driving for 9 hours, that's knackering. It really does take it out of you. So they didn't realise they'd arrived home 7 hours after their departure from Colebrook. When Homan and Jackson noted this discrepancy to the Hills, the couple had no explanation, a phenomena ufologists call missing time. The Hills claimed to recall almost nothing of the 35 miles of US Route 3 between Lincoln, Indian Head and Ashland. Both claimed to recall an image of a fiery orb sitting on the ground. Betty and Barney reasoned that it must have been the moon, but Homan and Jackson informed them that the moon had set earlier that evening. The subject of hypnosis came up, and it was decided that it should be carried out in order to recover previously unretrievable memories. Barney was apprehensive, but thought it might help Betty put to rest what Barney described as the nonsense about her dreams.
So he's in denial as well, isn't he? That, you know, that statement itself says he's in denial.
Yeah.
He just wants to forget it. Yeah.
And this is the problem. If a lot of people will do that, they'll go into denial because they don't understand what they've experienced.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. It's in a way, it's a state of shock. Mm-hmm. Something that traumatic to the human body or the human mind, it shuts it away, and it doesn't want to reappear. So
it's like self-preservation.
You mentally block it. Yeah. So you mentally block it. But then we get to the hypnotherapy, the hypnosis sessions. Under hypnosis with Dr. Benjamin Simmons, as was consistent with the conscious recall, Barney reported that the binocular strap had broken when he ran from the UFO back to his car. He recalled driving the car away from the UFO, but afterward he felt irresistibly compelled to pull off the road and drive into the woods. He eventually sighted 6 men standing on a dirt road. The car stalled, and three of the men approached the car. Barney described the beings as generally similar to Betty's hypnotic recollection. He said the beings stared into his eyes with a terrifying, mesmerizing effect. Under hypnosis, Barney said, "Oh, those eyes, they're there in my brain." And I was told to close my eyes because I saw 2 eyes coming close to mine, and I felt like the eyes had pushed into mine. All I see are these eyes. I'm not even afraid that they're not connected to a body. They're just there. They're just up close to me, pressing against my eyes.
Wow.
While Betty reported a conversation with the leader in English, Barney said that he heard them speaking in a mumbling language he did not understand. Betty also mentioned this detail. A few times they communicated with him. Barney said it seemed to be thought transference. At that time, he was unfamiliar with the word telepathy.
Yeah, I think that's what they were experiencing, definitely. Yeah.
And on Betty's sessions under hypnosis, Betty's account was similar to her 5 dreams about the UFO abduction, with some notable differences, mainly pertaining to her capture and release. Also, the technology on the craft was different. The short men differed significantly in physical appearance, and the sequential order of the abduction differed. Barney and Betty's memories in hypnotic regression were, however, consistent with each other.
Wow. See, your description that you said before about what Betty described, these beings with the blue lips, blue face, a long nose,
Grey skin, yep.
And the black eyes. Do you know what I thought about when you said that? Remember the film, oh God, with the child
Communion?
catcher, the child catcher. Remember that where, oh, what was it? Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and they had the man went down catching all the children. That face, that look. You described what I thought that looked like. There's no the child, but the people catchers, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when anybody says to me about the grey skin and the black eyes, I automatically think of the typical alien grey.
Mm-hmm.
That is always the first point I look at. And it reminds me of the alien greys that are in the film Communion with Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
That is a scary film. Yeah. When you actually look into it, even if you haven't watched any sort of UFO type films before, when you look at the likes of Communion and you look at how he's abducted and how he communicates with the beings, you think, really, is this going on? Because it can be. Yeah. We don't know. And until it's like being a normal, being a paranormal investigator. The whole idea is we're going out looking for evidence.
That's it, yeah.
And we don't know what shape or form that evidence is going to come in. And it will be the same with possible beings from outside this planet.
Yeah.
It's, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's human ignorance that we are the only living beings in the known universe.
Totally agree with you.
Out of all of those possible Goldilocks planets that we have out there in the universe, there is bound to be life on half of them.
Of course there is.
We've known for a while now for fact that Mars at some point had life on it.
Yes, yeah.
They have a north and south pole that contain water. So with that being with water being there, that's hydrogen and oxygen. It only needs other chemical elements there and life will form.
Yes.
Now with their latest find, they now have discovered that there was microbial life on Mars.
Yeah.
So how far did evolution take that microbial life before something more intelligent came along?
Yes. Yeah.
Did Mars die before that intelligent life was be able to do something about it?
We don't know.
Or did it die before it got to that? There
Yeah.
is a rule of thumb that states that we could have possibly started from Mars. Knowing that Mars was dying, we came to Earth because we knew Earth was bountiful of vegetation, water, and air. So we came to Earth instead and left a dying planet behind.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking at doing the same again.
Yes, of course we are. That's what they're doing. They're looking for somewhere for us to go to.
We're looking further afield to see. We're looking further afield to see where we can go, because we're damaging this planet way too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we go back to post-hypnosis publicity and Barney and Betty's death, the Hills went back to their regular lives, and they were willing to discuss the alleged UFO encounter with their friends, family, and the occasional UFO researcher. But the Hills apparently made no effort to seek publicity, which, again, oh, hello.
Oh, nice.
I look down and there's Nick when I look back up again. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Too good. We're all fine. We are talking about Betty and Barney Hill.
Oh yes, I know this case all too well. That famous
And-
UFO case from 1961. Yeah.
Yeah, and their times, the sort of the loss of time. And I was just getting to the bit about the any of the publicity that they had after their deaths.
Yeah.
So on October the 25th, 1965, a front page story on the Boston Traveler asked UFO Chiller, did they seize couple? Reporter John H. Luttrell of the Traveler had already been given an audio tape recording of the lecture the Hills had made in Quincy Center in the late 1963. Luttrell learned that the Hills had undergone hypnosis with Simon. He also obtained notes from confidential interviews that the Hills had given to UFO investigators. On October the 26th, United Press International picked up the Luttrell story, and the Hills earned international attention. In 1966, writer John G. Fuller secured the cooperation of the Hills and Simon and wrote the book The Interrupted Journey. And this was all about the case. The book included a copy of Betty's sketch of the star map. The book was a quick success and went through several printings. Barney died of a cerebral hemorrhage on February the 25th, 1969, at the age of 46, after which Betty went on to become a celebrity in the UFO community. She died of cancer on October the 17th, 2004, aged 85, having never remarried.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that one is an example of only a small time frame. Their 4-hour journey took 7 hours. So 3 hours are missing from their lives.
It's incredible. I mean, just the amount of, just for that entire time loss, going through such an event like that. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before you came on, Nick, we were talking about the Travis Walton case.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that he went missing for almost a week before he reappeared.
And he thought it was the same night when he came back, but it was a full week.
There was something different about when you watch the film A Fire in the Sky. You can clearly see that, going by the story and the testimony of the witnesses and from Travis Walton himself, something was clearly wrong. Something had clearly affected him, and it had changed him forever.
That's right. It also even changed. It even changed in a way. It also kind of changed his coworkers too. I mean, two of which sadly I know have passed away over the last number of years, but I know the others are still alive. And you could still see from because I know there was I think the Travel Channel did something recently on it. I think it was that I don't remember what it was called, but you could still see it affects a lot of those guys that were witness to it, but obviously it affects Travis Walton the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you've got a whole week, you've got a 4-hour journey that ended up taking 7 hours. And then I'll refer to an incident that I had. And I still can't understand it. I still don't know how it came about or it works, because I wasn't suffering from issues with tiredness or sleep or anything like that. In fact, if anything, I was still on a high from the investigation we'd been on. Now, we'd spent the evening down at the Woodchester mansion near Bristol. And we'd been investigating and filming there overnight. And we left there at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, Sam and Marcus, our director and producer, they went home in Aylesbury, which isn't too far from there. And we had to travel back here to Colchester. Now, that journey was very long. I can't remember how long it was supposed to be, but we were due to get home. I think it was just before 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So it was the best part of a 4-hour journey. And there was 4 of us in my car. There was myself driving, my partner Ellen, our teammate Mick, and our teammate Chloe. Now, Mick and Chloe sitting in the back, wide awake. Ellen was in the front, fast asleep. And we're driving around the N25, which is the outer ring road around London for those in America and elsewhere. We got to a place called Waltham Abbey. Now, Waltham Abbey itself is junction 26 of, I'm sure it's junction 26 of the M25. If I can just double check on that. Somewhere like that. 26, 25, no, it might even be less than that. Oh, that's the M11, yes, so it is junction 26. Now, we needed, or the sat-nav was telling us to go up the A12, which is 2 junctions further along. It's 22 miles away. I decided that I was going to go up the M11, which is the next junction. And as we were going past Waltham Abbey, we were all, well, the 3 of us were talking about the investigation, the different things that had happened, and what steps we were going to be taking next for our next investigation. Without warning, bearing in mind this is junction 26 of the M25. Without warning, I'm looking at a signpost saying junction 29, Southend and Basildon.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm like, hang on a minute, what are we doing here? Both Mick and Chloe said, what do you mean? I said, well, I was going to come off at the M11. Right, but this isn't the M11. Ah, okay, so where are we? I said, this is the junction for the A127, which is 23 miles away from where we were just now. And they went, what do you mean? I said, look, we're on Waltham Abbey Junction, which is junction 26. I wanted to go up the M11, which was junction 27. The sat-nav wanted us to go up the A12, which is junction 28. This is junction 29. And we came off. As soon as I came off that junction, came under the motorway and out the other side, I started to get a headache.
Oh.
Oh,
that
geez.
headache lasted all the way through the following day. Couldn't get rid of it. Both Mick and Chloe were wide awake all the way through all of this until we got back home, and I dropped them off and we got back home and went to sleep. So the following day, I woke up, headache was still there. Ellen wasn't feeling 100%. And then later on that afternoon, Ellen was violently sick. And it wasn't until about 5 o'clock that afternoon the headache disappeared. I then phoned Mick and asked him how he was feeling, and he said, I feel fine. I don't feel that I've actually been on an investigation last night.
Oh.
Holy
He
cow.
felt that he'd just been to work during the day, gone home, had his dinner, sat and watched TV with his wife, and went to bed, got up normal time. He
Wow.
just still felt as if he was full of energy and could have, it was almost as if he'd missed it. I then contacted Chloe and asked her how she felt. She said she didn't feel 100%. She's been off food all day. She didn't want to eat anything, which is unlike her. And she just felt strange. And when I told her, because Chloe and Ellen are best friends,
Yeah.
and they usually talk to each other quite a bit. And she asked how Ellen was, and when I told her, she couldn't believe it, that Ellen had been sick. So after these 2 phone calls, I sat down and I actually looked at my sat nav and I looked at the maps. And it turned out that we had lost about 22 to 23 minutes of time.
Wow.
Oh my
Just
God.
gone.
Wow.
And it's about the same mileage, same in mileage as well. It's about 22 to 23 miles from Waltham Abbey to the A12 junction. And then when I looked at the sat nav had actually got us home an hour early. We'd actually arrived back here at 5 o'clock in the morning, not 6 o'clock, which is what the sat nav was saying we would.
Wow.
That's crackers.
So
Yeah.
we're sitting there saying, well, what's happened? I was driving. I had windows open. I was able to smoke while I was driving because the others didn't mind it. So we were all talking. So the 3 of us were wide awake. Ellen was fast asleep. But the 3 of us were wide awake and talking about the night and various bits and bobs. Next minute I know, I'm looking at a junction that's 23 miles further down the road.
Yeah.
And when I've mentioned it to various people, they've turned around and went, you were sleep driving. I went, well, I'm a bloody good sleep driver then if I've been able to drive Bendy Road at 70 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Talking to 2 of my friends in the back seat without crashing into another car or crashing into the central reservation or the hard shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done that for 23 miles and over the space of an hour as well.
No way. There's no way. I'm sorry, you couldn't do that.
So not only did I lost 23 miles, I'd lost an hour of time.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So it took me an hour to drive 23 miles and I couldn't remember a single part of it, and neither could the 2 in the back seat.
So what year was this, Wayne?
This was only last year.
Wow.
Oh, so this was very recent.
Yeah, it was either last year or the year before. I would have to look, go back to the Truth Beyond Paranormal groups on Facebook and have a look at when we filmed at Woodchester Mansion, because it was literally on the way home from filming. And it just felt really weird. And it just seemed strange that the headache started the second I turned around to come back on my plotted course.
Yeah.
That I got the headache.
Yeah. You never had any burns or anything, or do you think you had any signs of radiation poisoning or anything?
To be honest, the only thing I got that was different to me was the headache and the length of the headache. Now, I used to get migraines. I used to get really bad migraines.
Yeah.
To the point that I had to go to the doctors and he gave me 2 forms of medication. One was to get rid of the headache and the other medication was to stop them from coming back.
Yeah.
And they said to me originally, you take the 1 tablet. If it doesn't work and the headache returns, next time you take the 2 headache tablets, then take 2 of these other ones to stop it from coming back. But be warned, they will knock you out.
Yeah.
So fine. Over the weekend, I tried it. Didn't work. So on the Tuesday morning, I'd woke up with the headache. So, right, I'm going to take the 2 tablets. So I took the 2 headache tablets, the 2 tablets to stop the headache coming back. I woke up on the Thursday. So not only did they cause me drowsiness, they knocked me out for 2 days.
I can imagine.
But since doing that, since doing that medication, I have never had a migraine since until that moment.
Good God.
Incredible. According to Lois, she said she was sure it was last year because you weren't weren't long working with her on the show. So
Yeah,
Lois, it might have been last year that it happened to you.
I knew it was either last year or the year before. It was later last year, I'm sure it was, or the year before. It was one of the two. But the headache was the only thing, and it was like having one of the migraines again. It's been a long time since I'd experienced head pain like that. And
have you ever had, Wayne? Have you ever seen what you think could have been a UFO? Anything,
yes,
not just particularly that time, other
yes,
times as well, yeah? Were they
myself. Oddly enough, it was when we were doing Truth Beyond Paranormal. We were at Rendlesham Forest,
right?
and I had Mark Manley, who's with me on the Dark Mirror radio show, came with us.
Yeah.
And we were standing in the clearing that the alleged UFO landed in, and we had seen, during the course of 20 minutes, we had seen 5 lights in the sky that did not show up on the Flight Aviation Authority's website.
Yeah.
They just weren't there. They weren't satellites. They weren't aircraft, and definitely wasn't the International Space Station. But 2 of the objects travelled from a west to easterly direction.
Right.
2 of the objects were either side of the clearing and were stationary. One of the objects we observed in the east, and they were doing like a wave pattern. It was going up and down as it headed north.
Right. Okay.
And then the last object, which Mark managed to get a photo of, was this black triangle.
Yeah.
Now, this black triangle, we tried to work it out, and our military has nothing like it.
Yeah.
Because it's too big.
Yeah.
Right.
We reckoned original thought was it was about the size of 10 football pitches. No,
Wow.
It was bigger. It was bigger than that, because we had noticed on the video footage that we had got throughout the night that clouds were passing underneath it. We had, the moon was out, and it was almost a full moon.
Yeah.
And you could see the moon reflecting off the clouds. But this black triangle was that high up that you could see the light from the moon on the clouds passing underneath this object.
Wow.
But
incredible.
when we looked on the photo, you could clearly see there was a black triangle. There was no other light in this black triangle apart from a light at each point of this triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen 2. I've seen 2 of them, Wayne.
It could not have been the TR3B, because I don't think, to make something that big, you wouldn't have the resources to do it.
No.
It was way too big.
And where are you going to hide that? You know.
You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
What local shed are you going to put that into?
real quick. Oh, go on.
It wasn't until about 2 or 3 days later, when we looked into things, that obviously we were in the clearing at Rendlesham Forest, well known for the UFO encounter. Then all of a sudden we sort of wondered, hang on a minute, we were being watched from the moment we got there. There's a public car park at the bottom of the runway at RAF Woodbridge.
Yeah.
And all that area. And the actual east gate where the first sighting had been seen, we stood there and we were filming the introduction to that episode. And as we were leaving, this white pickup truck came towards the gate. And we thought, right, okay. So we walked off down the road back to the public car park, and we set up the cameras at the end of the runway on the public side of the fence. This pickup truck came down to the end of the runway. And these 2 guys in camouflage combat outfit got out of these pickup truck and stood there watching us. We then finished filming that bit. walked off down the footpath towards the supposed landing site. The two guys then got in the pickup truck and went back to the east gate.
Right.
And we had to send two of our team back to the cars to get some spotlights. And when they got back there, they said that the pickup truck was parked in the car park. Nobody was in it.
Oh, now that's nerving,
Wow.
isn't it? That's very
And
nerving.
Jeez.
all through the evening, we kept hearing what we thought was someone or some people walking about around the edges of the clearing.
Yeah.
And that's why we sent back. That's why we sent two of the lads back to get the spotlights, so we could brighten up the area a little bit more, because we were convinced that there was people walking around in that forest.
Yeah.
And they were watching what we were doing. And I looked back at it and said, I got the sneaky suspicion it's those two guards.
Possibly.
Wow.
It's, I mean, they've got all around that area, it's a UFO trail. It's highly publicised.
Yeah, I've seen
So
that.
you can follow the trail all around Rendlesham Forest.
Right.
So obviously we've been there, we're filming, we've got cameras, we've got the tripods, we've got the lights and everything. There's me standing there saying, welcome to Truth Beyond Paranormal. Tonight, we come to you from Rendlesham Forest. And all of a sudden, you see this white pickup truck coming back towards us.
Oh.
Oh, my God.
And when we look at it, we just think to ourselves, seriously, did they know something was going to be there that night?
Possibly. Or
Because
they've got cameras everywhere watching who's coming in and out.
But on the original incident, whatever object it was had been buzzing RAF Bentwaters down the road, as well as RAF Woodbridge and in Rendlesham. So it had taken a couple of days before the actual sighting became the known incident.
Yeah.
Right.
And they claimed that this UFO had actually stopped over the top of one of the bunkers that housed the nuclear weapons at Bentwaters.
Yeah, I can understand.
And a beam of light had gone down into one of the bunkers. And they reckoned it was taking the energy from the nuclear missile. So did they know that something was going to be there that night? So they thought they'd follow us down there to make sure we were going to be safe? Or was it more sort of black ops, sort of seriousness sort of thing?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a worry, but when you look at it and then you think to yourself, there's definitely got to be something in all of this because of that incident and the loss of time coming back from Woodchester Mansion.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
And I'm quite happy to talk to other people about both incidences simply because I know what I experienced.
Yeah.
And luckily, I didn't experience them alone.
Yeah, you had witnesses. See?
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah.
That is one of the biggest things. If you went out and you saw a strange light in the sky and you're all on your own, the following day you turn around to people and say, Joe, I saw the weirdest of things last night. I saw this object. It had flashing lights on it, but it was stationary. It didn't move. It was silent. And then it came down to about 100 foot off the ground, made a funny noise, and then shot vertically straight up and disappeared. I think I saw a UFO. The majority of people wouldn't believe what you just said.
No,
and you'd be too embarrassed to say it.
Yeah,
but when you've got people that can collaborate what you've said, they verify we were in that clearing, we looked up and we could see that object, and we've got the photo of it. It becomes better evidence than before.
Yeah.
So
can I just read this out from Noreen Hill?
Yeah, I was going to share these ones from Noreen, and then I also wanted to share what Robert wrote too.
She says that I was telling Wayne the other night that I saw a triangle around 2011. No way, it was a normal aircraft. It was far too big and you felt like you were being watched. It was silent and I couldn't understand how something so big could stay in the air silently. And the one that follows underneath that one, And it says the triangle I saw across the flight path of Liverpool Airport. And now I'm watching them flights going over there all the time, Noreen, because I live over in North Wales. So I see the flights going over my home, going to Speke Airport. And yet nothing was ever said about it. It was around 2:30 a.m. But it was so visible, even if it wasn't shown on radar. See, 2011 is when I had a massive sighting in just off Cardigan. I'd gone camping, and we booked in the 25th of April to a campsite not far off Cardigan, which is down southish Wales.
Right.
Yeah, so anybody wants to know where that is. So we got there, and the strangest place, but the people were lovely that owned it, but they just had a new load of shower cubicles and everything, which they built in there. But there was just one camper van there, and we were camping. So the owner said to us, do you want to go on the electrics? Because we were doing just gas, yeah. And they said, we'll give you some if you want, if you haven't got any. So we did, but the next day, this camper van went home. So that was on the 26th of April, 2011. Early hours of the 27th of April, about 2:30 in the morning, I got woken up to the sound. Now, we were the only ones on that campsite. Got woken up to the sound of screaming sheep. They were screaming like, we live round sheep, right? We live round sheep. I've never heard sheep scream. They were petrified. And I was lying there thinking I need to go for a wee, right? And I wouldn't go out the tent because there was too much going on with these sheep. I was thinking, is there a wild dog around there? Something scaring them? And I was trying to figure out what it was. So I tried to wake me then husband, and he wouldn't wake up. And I tried. I thought, oh my God, I'm bursting. So anyway, I waited till the sound of the sheep went down a little bit, and I jumped out the tent, and I had a wee at the back of the tent because the toilets were like 2 fields away, and I didn't want to walk down there on my own because I don't know what was making these sheep scared. So by the time I finished doing what I was doing, I walked. Hold on, there's somebody at the door. Hold on, just a second.
That's the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Guess she got a little too close to the truth there.
Yeah, but that's the bigger issue, isn't it? Is these people will highly publicise a situation like that. What is going to happen to them afterwards?
Yeah.
Because up until 96, I think it was, people wouldn't say anything because you would have these strange people turning up and telling you to keep quiet about what you saw.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was the Men in Black. I said, now go to your room and behave yourself. I'm on here. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll tell you the rest of this story, right? This is just one of them this is completely different than the black triangles. So I decided that the curiosity in me got the better of me. And when this sound of screaming sheep went quieter, I walked to the perimeter of the campsite. I went up a little embankment, 2 steps, and I looked over this hedge. And I looked over and I was looking, I could see into the valley. And it was just countryside. I could see where there was houses in the distance, but there was no lights on anywhere because it's like 2:30 in the morning now. But there was something straight over. I don't know how far it was, a couple of miles, I don't know, but it was huge, and I didn't know what it was, and it had me mesmerised, and it was a shape of like a horseshoe. If the base of it wasn't there, so if it was a full circle, it wouldn't have been a horseshoe, right? Round this object were white lights. So the white lights were all pulsating in unison. I thought, oh, we got a fairy. There was nothing there. And I just could. So it was going white and down to red, up to white and big, down to red. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And I was still scanning the area. Sound of the sheeps went right down. There was just a few bleeps now and again. But then I seen something to the left. So I'm looking northeast. And there's a hill, a big hill up there. And it had television mast with about 6 or 7 red lights on.
Yep.
As I looked at it, looked back at this object, looked up there, and I thought one of the lights fell off the mast, right? I can laugh at myself now, but it wasn't. I thought this light had fell off, but it hadn't. This big red ball of light came round the hillside and it literally glided down the valley at a steady but fast pace and stopped right next to this object. So there's your object, this horseshoe circle thing, and this ball of light was there and it was living. It was moving inside. I was rubbing my eyes. I was like this, rubbing my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And it started shuddering after maybe 40 seconds of shuddering. And then it went white, red, and it got in rhythm with this other one. So I'm looking around now, what the hell is it? In my head, I was thinking what it could be, but I was trying to make sure that it was just something normal. But what normal thing does that? And it got in unison with this pulsation, like this rhythm. And after a couple of minutes, it shook. It started to shake, this single one, and it morphed into another one. So there was 2 of them now, and they were both pulsating at the same time. So the one that came in, which was this one, then went back, behind and into the back of the first one. And then it just started going. So it was like a big Stargate, basically. And as soon as that went into the back of it, the whole area went silent, deafening silence. I looked at it and it was like something was dragging my sight, and I ducked behind the hedge. Absolutely crapped myself.
Jeez.
So you went to the toilet twice.
So I started to run back to the tent, and my legs, it was like they were not going quick enough, and I was getting dragged. I got in the tent. I put the lock on because I had it there, right? Locked myself in the tent. Got into the bedroom. He was still asleep. He wouldn't wake up. I couldn't wake him up. But I got in, I got his big arm, wrapped it round me. Never slept. And I told him, and I told my family about it. And 3 years later, it was still eating at me. It ate at me. So I don't even know who it was. I contacted some UFO group. I sent them an email. 3 years later, I think I got a reply off them. Yeah, it happens all the time. And that was the end of that one. That was the end of that one. I cannot explain what I've seen. I've gone through everything in my head. I've studied everything, seen what it might have been, but it wasn't. But it was the fact that red ball of living light came down that valley.
Yeah.
And that frightened me. That frightened me. You know, when you're watching it unfold, and the back of my mind was saying, Am I watching something otherworldly? No, it can't be. That's silly. Let's see what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's a typical scout ship and mothership scenario.
Yeah.
The smaller one was out there looking around, while the big one stayed where it was, and then it flew back in, and then joined up with the mothership, and then off it went.
It knew I was there.
Yeah,
It did know I was there.
I think they do. I think they do know who's there and who's watching. But it is really, really strange. And the worst part is you get groups that say they're ufologists, and you mention your experience, and they reply with something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they're not really sort of taking the information they've been given and actually investigating into it that much. Yeah. They've just simply replied back, yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, well, and I felt like I'd been shit on from a great height,
basically. Yeah, they're not very sympathetic to how you feel, because, like you said, it's been eaten away at you for so long.
Yeah.
And eventually you share your experience. That's not the way you should get a reaction from, in a sense, a professional body.
Yeah, exactly.
They're supposed to be taking it seriously, and sending a reply back like that is almost like they're taking the mickey out of you.
Yeah, it's very belittling. I mean, I'd had a few experiences. I'd seen 2 black triangles. The first one, I didn't actually spot it. My husband came home from the pub on a Wednesday night. It was about maybe 96, something like that, maybe 94, 96. Wednesday night, I was in the house. He came in from darts. He came in the house 11:15 on the dot every Wednesday night after darts. He came in and he was a miserable little rat, honest to God. And he said, I want you to come outside now. Now, outside, we hadn't had lights in our street for about 2 years. Right? We hadn't got them. I said, what for? It was freezing cold. It was November. He said, you need to come out and have a look at this. So I went out with him, freezing cold, stood at the gate, and I'm looking up and down the street now. And I said, what am I looking at? He said, just look. I said, it started getting quite irate. So I said, there's nothing here. He said, look up. So I looked up and I went, well, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. It was humongous. A big black triangle, and it had very on the corners, it had like very creamy white lights, very low. But underneath there was like a burnt orange colour light in the middle. And it was silent. You couldn't feel. It must have been about 80 to 100 foot above our houses. And it floated. There was no vibration. There was nothing, no noise. There was nothing. I was glued to it. And because he'd have said, I've seen things, even though it was him that's dragged me out to see it. He didn't, he denied it all. So I said, well, what do you think that is? An air balloon or what? Because like it's 11:15 at night. He said, no, he said, it's not an air balloon. I said, well, what do you think it is? Well, will you tell me? I said, no, what do you think it is? You've dragged me out to watch it and it's just floating up the street, up to a school, top of the road. He said, well, it looks like a UFO. I said, yes, it does, doesn't it? It went to the top of the school field. It manoeuvred round very slowly, stopped, and headed to the end of our river, which is just round the corner from the River Mersey, where that Noreen said, you know. So I run in the house. I went in my boys' bedroom, jumped all over the beds when they were asleep, looked through the window. I could see it. And it was stuck at the end of the estuary. And it just stayed there, couple of minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, and it shot off in the direction that Noreen said. And that was about 94, 96, something like that. Only 4 years ago, one of my neighbours I seen who lived there, she's a cousin of mine actually, she said that, did you ever see that black triangle that was above our street because you lived in the street? She's seen it herself, so it wasn't just me and my ex, it was the neighbour as well, because I didn't think anybody had seen it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, at that sort of time at night, most people have headed off to bed, haven't they?
Yeah. Plus, the ex-husband said I must have been seeing things. He must have been seeing things, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you can understand that. He's been down at the pub. He's had a few beers, and he's come back and he's seen something, and his mind has made up the rest. And he's probably thought to himself, "Yeah, it's probably because of the beer I've had." And you know, and a lot of people will point the finger at alcohol and say, "Oh, you must have been drinking or smoking some of the devil's lettuce, as they call it."
And he must have absolutely been petrified to come in and just drag me out like that, because he would never do that. Never. No. You know.
But again, it's exactly the same situation with going out ghost hunting. Mm-hmm. You know, you go into a haunted location, you experience something you can't explain. You need the methods to be able to record what has happened.
Yeah, you can.
If you're on your own, your best ally is a video camera.
Yes.
Unless you're with other people, that's going to be your weapon of choice, because you're not going to get it any other way. You go into a location on your own and you experience something that is pretty spine-chilling.
Yeah.
It's your word against everybody else's when you come out.
And you feel a thrill, don't you?
Yeah, if you've got other people with you and they all experienced it as well, your evidence is more accepted simply because other people have backed you up.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's how it should be. And it's the same with UFOs. Someone sees something they can't explain, and that's how it is. That's how it's categorized. If it is something you cannot explain, it has to be unidentified. So therefore, it's an unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah. It's like when I moved in here 4 years ago, a friend of mine, 2 o'clock in the morning, put something on Facebook. She was sat in a garden in Prestatyn, which is down the coast from us. And she was photographing something and she sent it over to me. Well, she sent it on Facebook and I said, "Where's this now?" She said, "It's just going over now," because she sees quite a lot down there coming out the Irish Sea. So I said, "Right, I've been here a week." And I got out of bed and looked through the window. I said, "Well, you never believe this." So this is what I seen. And this is a close-up of it.
Right.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
And it was there. It just glowed. But the picture that she caught, this is the one she caught of it.
Yeah, that's slightly different.
Yeah.
It really is.
There was two pictures she put up, that one, and one that looks quite like a planet, but it's not, because this thing was spinning. So that's the other side of it.
Oh
wow.
Yeah, from here that looks like Jupiter.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's slight rings around it.
Yeah.
But depending on what camera she took the picture with, if it was a normal standard smartphone or a mobile phone, you would have not got a picture of a planet with a phone at the time.
Let me see if I can.
Because to be honest, I don't think a mobile phone nowadays could ever take a picture of somewhere like Jupiter or Saturn in the night sky.
No. No,
They're not that good yet.
No. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that, you know, that go on. But nobody believes you. And it's like these people, like you've been telling us these stories tonight, Wayne, and God, I was like living it with them. I was like, oh, that, you know, it's amazing, you know, what's happened.
It's because of their personal experiences, and they've actually written about it.
Yeah.
And they've told people about it because they don't want to be made to look like lunatics, that they've experienced something and they've lost. In Travis Walton's case, they've lost a week. In Betty and Barney Hill, they lost 4 hours of time. They, you know, their journey should have taken 4 hours to get from point A to point B, but somehow 3 hours have vanished from that journey or added on to that journey that they can't remember.
Yeah.
And that, again, similar with mine.
Yeah.
My journey should have taken, I think it was supposed to take 4 hours to get home, and yet for some unknown reason we went further afield and it took an hour less.
See, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's almost as if the only way I could describe it, and thinking about it over and over again, the only way I could think of it is that whatever it is tries to take people but bring them back at the moment and the place that they were taken.
Yeah.
But they can only go and do it so much. And I wondered whether they sort of may have taken us and then put us back in the wrong place an hour later.
Possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, they've probably just thought, yeah, sod it, we'll just put them back on this road and just go. And they've just dumped us back on the M25. They've gone off, and we've just sat there and gone, hang on a minute, this don't make sense. We're 23 miles away from where we remember.
Yeah.
And then when we've got home, we've gone, hang on a minute, how have we got home an hour earlier than we were supposed to?
Yeah.
You can't do that, you know. To be able to travel that distance to get home an hour before the sat-nav says, you would have had to have broken the speed limit on every road by almost 40 miles per hour.
Yeah.
To make up that time.
No.
So I'd have had to have been... Sorry, Nick?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead first. First.
I would have had to have been travelling about 110 miles per hour on every road I was on to have got back that hour, you know, that hour early. There's no way I could have physically done it.
Yeah. Well, Noreen, make friends with me on Facebook, love, and we'll have to arrange to meet up.
I also wanted to share this from earlier. This is what Robert from Australia said. Said, might sound strange, but we had similar experiences in the far north of Queensland. Travel time from our place to Cairns, if that's correct. I don't know if I probably butchering that name. Yeah, it's almost 90 minutes. It would take us about 60 minutes to do that distance without speeding.
Yeah. Exactly. And it is strange that, you know, you can experience things and a lot of people will point the finger at being tired or something like that. And that was how it was perceived with me.
Yes.
And they're all like, oh, you must have been tired. I'm like, no, I wasn't. I was absolutely buzzing. I was full of adrenaline because of the things that had happened during the course of the night. And we were talking about it non-stop all the way home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I noticed that we were at junction 29 and I looked at the clock, I looked at my sat-nav, and everything was out of place. So I'm like, how has this happened? We have literally moved 23 miles. And then when we got home, I'm like, we were home an hour early. We dropped the other two team members off and we got back to our house and we were an hour early.
Wow.
So none of it adds up. And yet it's weird because it does add up in a way. And we're like, how have we ended up in this situation?
I'm trying to remember what that famous. Yeah.
Nick? Yeah, tell us about that one, mate.
I'm trying to remember which one that was. It was a long time ago. I talked about that one. Lois, if you could help me out just a little bit as a reminder, because I've heard of missing time. Damn it, I don't. It's like right in front of me. I just can't remember which case that was. I'm sure it'll come back to me soon.
Okay.
There is actually one other case that does deal with missing time. I did find out, however, about. I haven't told Lois about this one yet either, so this will be a first time. This didn't occur near me. Now, but it's not just only a case of missing time. It actually has something referred. It actually is probably also referring with time travel as well. For starters, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the strange case involving a man named Rudolph Fentz. Did you guys ever hear about him?
No.
Okay. So like I said, even though it's not necessarily, it's more time travel, but it still does deal with missing time in a way. Some people say it did happen. Others say it didn't. Obviously, it's an urban legend. So whether or not this actually happened, it's still an interesting story. So I'll read this anyway. This won't take long at all. So the fence legend describes about how one evening in June of 1951, a man with mutton chop sideburns and Victorian era duds popped up in Times Square. And he was about 29 years of age, dressed in the fashion of the late 19th century. No one observed how he had arrived there, and he was disoriented and confused, standing in the middle of an intersection. And he obviously looked startled. And then a minute later, he was hit by a taxi cab driver and fatally injured before people were able to intervene. So he was killed immediately.
Oh.
The officials at the morgue searched his body and found the following items in his pockets: a copper token for a beer with 5 cents bearing the name of a saloon, which was unknown even to older residents of the area, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage drawn by a livery stable on Lexington Avenue that was not listed in any address book, about $70 in old banknotes, business cards with the name Rudolph Fentz, and an address on Fifth Avenue. A letter sent to this address in June 1876 from Philadelphia, and a medal for coming third in a 3-legged race. None of these objects showed any signs of aging. Captain Hubert V. Rim of the Missing Persons Department of NYPD tried using this information to identify the man. He found that the address on Fifth Avenue was part of a business. Its current owner did not know Rudolph Fentz. Fentz's name was not listed in the address book. His fingerprints were not recorded anywhere, and no one had reported him missing. Rim continued the investigation and finally found a Rudolph Fentz Jr. in a telephone book from 1939. Rim spoke to the residents of the apartment building at the listed address who remembered Fentz Jr. and described him as a man about 60 years who had worked nearby. After his retirement, he moved to an unknown location in 1940. Contacting the bank, Rim was told that Fentz died 5 years before, but his widow was still alive but lived in Florida. Rim contacted and learned that her husband's father, Rudolph Fentz, had disappeared in 1876, aged 29. He had left the house for an evening walk and never returned. All efforts to locate him were in vain, and no trace remained. Captain Rim checked the missing persons files on Rudolph Fentz in 1876. The description of his appearance, age, and clothing corresponded precisely to the appearance of the unidentified dead man from Times Square. The case was still marked unsolved. Fearing that he would be held mentally incompetent, Rim never noted the results of his investigation in the official files.
Wow.
Strange.
Now that's like proper time travel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way. Like I said, some say this happened, others say it didn't, because the part of where people get a little bit skeptical on it was that it actually did become a short story that same year in 1951 for a story called I'm Scared by Jack Finney. But there's other people who say that this actually did happen. So again, being called an urban legend, it's kind of hard to say. But even though it's kind of more involving time travel, it still in some way kind of deals with lost time in some way, shape, or form.
Wow. See, you know, I mean, Wayne, you've experienced this time travel, really, you have, because that's not normal. And it makes you wonder, you know, and you talked about it with us now, people who experience it and are scared. Do you know anybody that's been threatened about being taken or seen, you know, by the men in black?
No.
Nobody's contacted you over that?
No, nobody's. I mean, I've had people contact me and say, "I think I've seen something that I can't explain, and it was in the sky." And the same with looking for ghosts. You know, I've had people contact me and say, "Look, I've taken this picture, or I've got this EVP. Can you have a look at it, please, and tell me what you think?" And I'm like, "That's fine, but who have you told?"
Yeah.
And most people will be like, "I haven't told anybody. I've come to you and other people similar to you because I trust you, because that's the field you work in." But they wouldn't go out to the general public and go, "Guess what I saw last night? And I've got a picture of it," because they're scared of being ridiculed. That's the key. That's the key problem. Is people are too scared that if they come forward and say they've seen this, they could be looking at the fallout from it. You know, whether it's the men in black turning up at your front door and threatening you, or whether it's ridicule from friends, family, and work colleagues, you know, it's going to happen. And
that's what I kind of wonder. Let's just say in this case with this man Rudolph Fentz, you know, if this really truly happened, like had he not been hit by a car, the question would be is how would he? I mean, if he really time travel, how on earth would he have been able to really explain that? Look, I'm from 1876. This is 1951, and you know, everybody would think he'd be crazy. They probably would assume most likely at first that he was nothing more than been nothing more than you know, an actor for a movie or a play, or maybe a reenactment for some 19th century event. They probably wouldn't take him seriously.
Nick, did you say he walked out on the road and got killed?
It was in New York's Times Square. He was hit by a taxi cab, and it killed him instantly. So now,
maybe he didn't know what they were.
Well, that's the other thing too. You have to think to yourself. Now you have to think. Apparently, he was originally from 1876. This is June of 1951. And when it comes to transportation and vehicles, you know, apparently he came from a time when most people were still using horses and buggies or just walking. You know, if you had to go somewhere, you had to go yourself. And here he was now at a time when there were already hundreds of cars, you know, especially in the downtown area. And I've often really thought to myself when I first heard about this legend that, you know, there is so much talk and interest of time travel, but to me, whether this is a true story or not, we should use it as a cautionary tale, because it really is kind of almost like a be careful what you wish for, because if we do figure out some way of time travel, we don't know really what exists in the future, especially if it comes to, like, let's say vehicles or something. Like, what if we like apparently Rudolph Fentz, if we involuntarily time traveled, let's say if it was if this is 2024, let's say if we ended up in 2124, you know, 100 years from now, imagine what may lay ahead of us. It may be normal to the people in that era, but we're not going to be so familiar with it ourselves and may not even realize how dangerous some of this stuff could be.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is you've got to have a look at the dimensions of time travel. A simple reason being is that time travel itself to the past is theoretically possible in certain general relativity space-time geometries that permit traveling faster than the speed of light. So the problem there is you've got to look at things like cosmic strings, traversable wormholes, and Alcubierre drives. Now,
Right.
the issue with time travel is if you're going to go to a different point in time, you have got to travel to a different point in space.
Right.
So, but you have got to be able to travel faster than light, in theory, to actually get there before the light does.
Does that involve bending time?
Bending space time.
Yeah,
You've got general relativity of normal Earth time, which is our personal time and space, which is what we've got now. But then you've got space time, and space time involves the things that travel at the speed of light. And to be able to travel at the speed of light, you've got to weigh less than light.
Wow.
Light doesn't weigh anything. So you've got to weigh negative mass to be able to travel faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
Now, you could possibly do that in space in a zero gravity environment, but then what you need is a propulsion system that is going to be able to move you faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's all about equations. It's all about mass and speed.
Yeah.
And you've got to have negative mass to be able to do plus speed. Especially if you're looking at going faster than the speed of light, you need to be able to be less than the weight of light.
Do you think they've made that
negative mass.
Do you think they've made that possible yet?
It wouldn't be surprising if you look at the projects such as Die Glocke during World War II.
Yeah.
The Germans had been developing the bell, and that was supposed to use anti-gravity. Now, if you can use anti-gravity and put that on a new propulsion system, you're part of the way there.
Yeah.
And they have invented, and I think next year, they are due to be testing a pulse drive engine and a warp drive engine.
Oh,
that's interesting.
And that's been the pulse drive engine was being developed back in 2019, I think it was.
Okay.
Some aircraft are using a form of pulse drive engine now,
right.
where it how can I put it? It puffs out the propulsion, so it does it in pulses. So it is literally a propulsion engine. Some of the rockets that they want to use for space travel exist on a nuclear pulse engine, where the nuclear propulsion it's nuclear fusion multiple times. So to travel, you would have the nuclear fusion take place. The exhaust from that would then propel the object. Then when it starts to slow down, another nuclear fusion takes place, and the propulsion from that pushes it further out. So all of these engines, they're all there in theory, but that's what they are. They're theories, and then it's putting them into practice. And when you look at films like Star Wars, Star Trek, Lost in Space, all of these films that have possible ideas, they're actually looking into those possible ideas and seeing if it's possible that can be done.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's our current understanding of the universe is simple. You know, we could potentially travel into the future, but traveling to the past may be a no-no. Because the remaining loophole is that the theories this is based on are incomplete. How do you go back to a time that has already passed?
Right.
You know, for us here, all of this sort of thing saying from if I was to go back, go forward 100 years from this spot now, I'm looking at moving through time, but not moving through space.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm staying in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the same area.
So exactly. So I could zoom forward to 100 years and find this house doesn't exist. It could be open fields.
Yeah.
You know, there
Yep.
could have been an apocalypse, and everything could be gone.
Yeah.
I could be standing in a barren wasteland.
Yeah.
But the technology has got to be there to be able to move a physical into another time. And that would mean dimension hopping, which means things like a loophole generator where you would go from here and it would send you round in a circle to come back to the same point, but at a different time. And that would all depend on technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be very nice if you were able to do that. But I think what makes it worse is when you get people go, look at this picture. This picture was taken in the 1920s, and this person's holding an iPhone 15.
Yeah, we all see things like that, don't we? It pops up every now and again.
The thing is, and I don't know about anybody else, but I've done it myself. I could be standing there holding a notebook in my hand, and I could be hearing something that I don't like. Now, I'll use my tobacco tin, for instance. Here's my tin.
Yeah.
So very similar shape to a mobile phone. If I turn it around that way, you can't see what's on the tin.
Yeah.
So that is a similar shape, but straight away, if we walk along the road, there we go.
Yeah, you've got a mobile phone.
So if I take a photo, that could be classed as someone's got a mobile phone in their hand.
Yeah.
But that photo is from 1928. It looks like he's got a mobile phone. Must be a time traveler. It could have been a notebook.
Yeah, of course it could. Yeah.
It could have been someone that had been scribbling notes in a notebook, and as they're walking along the road talking to someone that's next to them, something could be going on the left-hand side, and they've put the notebook up to their ear so that they can drown out that noise, so they can hear more of what the person's saying by the side of them.
Yeah.
I was going to say there was plenty. I mean, if you even look at that film, there were plenty of other, rectangular items that existed back in the 20s. So yeah, it not necessarily would have been a cell phone, like you said. It could have been a notebook. It could have been even just a piece of paper, like a dark piece, or it could have been anything in those days.
Yeah.
One of the ones I've seen recently is on TikTok, saying that this I think he was a Japanese guy. He's definitely a time traveler because he's standing there holding an iPhone 13, and I'm like, okay, so I've done it myself today. I've done an advert for an event that I'm doing in September, and I've taken a picture that was taken, normal coloured picture, and I aged it by about 120 years.
Yeah.
It's gone to black and white. It's got the grain in there. It's got what's it call it? The flare from the film flare.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got all of that in it. I've aged a photo that was taken a couple of weeks ago, and I've aged it by 120 years. Does that make a time traveler? The person that could have been, if I'd have taken a picture of somebody and then edited it to make it look like it was 120 years ago, does that person automatically become a time traveler? No. And you can do that with video, and you can do that with video footage as well. You just get somebody wearing period clothing, so I don't know, 1920s clothing, which is quite easy to get hold of, and then take the video footage of this person holding an iPhone 13, and then edit the video so it looks a little bit aged, and then go, oh, look what I found in my cupboard. This video is from 19 whatever, and this person's holding an i13.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have to be careful. We have to be careful what we see. But the theories are there, and it is possible. And then you go on to the UFO side of things. Now, the way I see it is, if there is a UFO that has managed to travel thousands of light years in a short space of time, they have an understanding of wormholes, time
Yeah.
travel, etc.
Absolutely.
So they are going to be could be 1,000 years ahead of us. They could be 500 years more advanced than us.
Yep.
But in that fight, if we say 500 years, in that 500 years, their knowledge would be so far superior than ours
Yeah.
that time travel would be piece of cake.
Yeah.
If you look at how much humans have developed in the last 500 years, all the differences, technology, the inventions, and everything else over the last 500 years.
It's gone like, boom. Yeah.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
if you take another race that's 500 years ahead of us, they would have mastered space travel. They'd have probably mastered time travel. They would have had no need for medications because they would have developed the technology to be able to look at a person and go, you've got this, cures this, blah, blah, job done.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
500 years, even 100 years is a hell of a long time for technology.
I mean, when I think about technology, when I first noticed technology, proper technology, now it sounds a bit daft, right? But it was when CDs first came out, because we were all used to tape, reel-to-reel tapes, cassettes,
The old mixtape.
and all that, and vinyls, right? Vinyls, I know they've come back, but my understanding was the vinyl went along the the rings on the needle went along the rings and read the pattern, and he made a noise. I couldn't understand how the CD worked. My understanding of that, I couldn't understand it. Now I thought that was very clever in the early 80s. It was really clever.
But it's digital data that's been able to be stored. But then very quickly, in a short space of time, we've gone from CDs to digital downloads.
Yeah.
Right.
So that digital storage space on that disc, compact disc, has now been able to be transferred to a different form of communication via the internet. So all you've got to do is just sit there and go, oh, yeah, I like that song. I think I'll have that. Press one button and it comes in through the airwaves, gets translated by your phone or your device, and then stored on that device.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's all stored in that microchip. And that is, like you say, prime example of how technology has advanced so fast. Again, mobile phones. You look at mobile phones in the 90s, they were bricks. They were massive.
Yeah.
And now we're walking around with them on our wrists in watches.
It's amazing. I mean, this technology now, we'd never ever have thought that we'd have had this. That was way out in the future. I mean, you used to watch Star Wars, didn't you? And they had the screens and they were talking to each other. And we thought that's never going to happen in my lifetime.
Well, you saying about Star Wars holograms?
Yeah.
Now, prime example of holograms. You look at Star Wars, a film that was made in the 70s, and they literally, Darth Vader talking to Senator Palpatine. He's standing there going, "Oh yeah, I'll get my son, blah blah blah, no problem." Right? This is hologram communication. And a few years back, I'll say a few years back, quite a while back, I went and watched War of the Worlds live on stage. Now, when they first did the stage show of it, they got Richard Burton's face. They filmed an actor and they put prosthetics on him to make him look more and more like Richard Burton.
Yeah.
They then filmed him miming Richard Burton's words.
Wow.
And then what they did for the stage show was they had this big polystyrene ball that was shaped similar to Richard Burton's, and they projected the image of this actor onto that big polystyrene ball.
Wow.
So that was the first stage. Then they changed it. They went with War of the Worlds, The Next Generation, and they got Liam Neeson to play Richard Burton's part. And they used 3D holography.
Wow.
And I've seen that version 3 times, and no word of a lie, you would swear blind that Liam Neeson was standing on that stage.
Wow.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Isn't
You
it?
couldn't see the screen they were using to put the hologram on,
Yeah.
but he is there on that stage, and it's all done with holograms.
Crackers. Absolutely
So
crackers.
you go from one point to another, and it's the technology that you discover as you're going along.
Yeah.
You know, especially in films, they end up developing the technology so that they can produce these films. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, well, we had to create this to be able to do this film. And they're like, but you've developed something no one else has developed before.
Yeah.
And then it becomes an essential part of the movie making business, simply because it's revolutionized how they make that special effect.
Yeah. It's crackers, isn't
Right.
it? It's amazing.
So I think we'll get there eventually, but we have to be able to wait for technology to catch up first.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Elon Musk and SpaceX, and look at NASA.
Yeah.
SpaceX poops all over NASA when it comes to rockets,
I know, it's amazing.
simply because he has invested so much money into research, looking at how the boosters can be reusable, how they can be autonomous. And that's the biggest one, autonomous, being able to come back on their own and land even on a ship in the middle of the sea on their own.
See, I thought that was I thought they were just pulling us, taking the mickey. But it wasn't, was it?
No.
But I thought it was. I thought they were just making that up because it doesn't seem possible.
No, but it's taken it's taken a private company to come in to actually show NASA that space exploration is possible and the rockets are reusable and that you can make them cheaper, you can fuel them cheaper and power them cheaper. And NASA have gone, oh yeah, right. Of course, now there's been a big call about the space shuttle program. Getting that reintroduced, getting that back in a reusable craft. And lo and behold, along comes the new version of the space shuttle, which is based on the original plans. And they're building a fleet of them.
Oh, right.
Look slightly different. They do look slightly different to the original space shuttle, but the technology is there in these ones. So they are hoping that they're going to be sort of more risk-free than before. But it's all because of technology. And we've gone from 1986, when the Challenger space shuttle disaster happened, to now for them to go, do you know what? It's been 38 years. We've now got the technology where we can have a reusable spacecraft. But the problem is SpaceX has still beaten them to it.
I know.
Yep.
So what have they been dragging the feet for? Or have they? Have they already got it? Have they already got it?
I personally think NASA have been dragging their feet because they were waiting for a company like SpaceX to take over. Because a government-funded organisation only gets given a certain amount per year. Once their funds run out, that's it until the next financial year.
Yeah.
So if they get given $150 million or £150 million to research space exploration, including building rockets, getting satellites into space and everything else, they need to look at other funding sources. If a private company walks in, it's got near enough a limitless vault full of cash, £3 or £5 billion per year coming into SpaceX,
Yeah.
and they can just throw rocket after rocket up there, regardless of whether it blows up before it comes back down again in tests. But that's the whole idea of it. Get these rockets built, get the vehicles built. If they do go wrong while they're unmanned, then at least you can analyze it, know what's gone wrong, change it, send it up and see if it happens again. Because they've got the money to do it.
Yeah.
NASA don't. NASA don't have that endless supply of cash to be able to keep investing into it. And luckily for SpaceX, they've had the money there, and they've been able to develop a fully autonomous booster system that can land back to Earth with the same, greatest of ease.
Yeah.
So again, it won't be long before we figure it out. And looking at the theories of time travel would be a possibility. We know full well that if we travel to Mars and then travel back, because of Earth's movement and Mars's movement, we're not going to come back 6 months after we left.
Yeah.
If it takes 6 months to get Mars, and we spend a month on Mars and then come back again, we know that those combined 13 months, it may be 15 or 16 months by the time we get back to Earth.
Right.
So although your personal journey to Mars and back may have taken 13 months, it would have been 16 months since you left if you were on Earth.
Right.
That's right.
So that's where your time travel, in theory, and well, technically comes from.
Yeah.
You have lost time in that travel.
Mm-hmm.
But what the theory there is what we're looking at taking someone from point A, taking them to point B, and then bringing them back to point A before they've left.
It's crackers, isn't it?
That's your flip side of time travel.
Yeah.
It's all right going from point A to point B, but it's getting point A to point B and back to point A before you leave.
Yeah.
And we do it when we go to, but this is because it's a man-made thing. Time is a man-made invention. You look at a clock. Who invented clocks? We did, to tell the time. We know there used to be 13 months in a year, not 12.
Yeah.
That's why we invented the leap year, to counteract all the extra timeage. But if you look at how time travel would work, you can do it by going from New Zealand to the UK. If you leave New Zealand at one time and get to the UK, you'll find that you've landed in the UK a couple of hours before you left New Zealand.
I know. Isn't that
because of the time zones.
Do you know what? I'm going to tell you a story about this, right? Years ago, when I worked in Chester, one of the young men that come, it was in an office, up and coming careers and all that. And he was looking at putting bets on horses in Australia because he knew that he was going to. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yeah.
Who says it wouldn't work? You know what I
mean? It's like the person saying, right, well, if I watch the lottery, take the numbers down, and then travel to the other side of the world before the lottery draws come here, put the numbers down and win it.
Let's do it.
It was like the international dateline, isn't it? People that want to forget Christmas Day altogether, they can travel over the international dateline on Christmas Eve at midnight and come out on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, technically and in theory, because of a man-made invention, we've got time travel.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Do you know?
So Yeah, it's possible, and it will be possible. It will just take time,
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely will.
which
So
I think is quite apt, isn't it? We're talking about time travel, and
Yeah.
yet it's going to take time before we can do it.
it's cracking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You think about it though, you wouldn't have a car, you wouldn't need to. Just go in the pod, oof, you're there.
It, yeah, and that again is a form of time travel, but that's more teleportation.
Mhm.
Is disassembling molecules and reassembling them at a second point.
Well, I'd look a right mess if I got in it, wouldn't I?
And so films like The Fly,
Yeah.
and believe it or
Yeah.
not, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory,
Yeah.
same theories. You go in one place, your molecules are disassembled, they're whooshed off to another place, reassembled back, and then off you go. But the problem is you would be limited up to where you can go, because you couldn't just say, well, I want to go to Tesco's and pop in the pod and pop out at Tesco's. Fancy going to the beach today? Right, which beach would you like to go to? Well, I think I'll go to Miami Beach. Right, if they got a pod there, no. Well, I won't be going to Miami then, will I? These are the beaches available. Bondi Beach. Oh, well, we'll go to Australia. Yeah, it's middle of winter. Yeah, well, maybe not. So, but you'd have to have these pods just about every building in the world.
You
yeah,
would.
like the electric
really
points for your car, isn't it?
So it cost you thousands.
Yeah.
Could you imagine it?
As a matter of
Could
fact.
you imagine if you're sitting in your living room, you're watching your favourite show while eating, I don't know, a bowl of macaroni cheese. You've got the pod up in the corner, and all of a sudden it pings, and someone gets out and they go, "Oh shit, I've got the wrong house."
Wrong house. And you know what?
I've called the wrong house.
Do you know what, Ray?
It's also,
Ray,
if it was
you've
an
got
accident,
don't move. Your cat is walking along the counter at the back. It looks like he's walking over your shoulder.
That's my mini cat. Hello. Yeah, tickle your belly.
Hey, wait a minute. Hang on, we gotta zoom in on this. Hang on. Okay, he's gone. I was just thinking to myself, if we have those pods and if somebody accidentally came to the wrong house, that technically is not considered trespassing or breaking or entering, because it was an accident.
Yeah.
But and that again, could you use that for time travel? How fast would it take from you to get, say, from here in, say, London to New York?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's the case of the film The Fly. What happens if an insect gets in there?
Yeah.
The computer would have to differentiate your. It would have to differentiate. Yeah. You'd have to differentiate your DNA from the fly's DNA.
Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, you end up coming out the other end with 6 legs and a big proboscis hanging out your face.
Maybe that's what's happened to the insect aliens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so many different possibilities.
Oh yeah, definitely is.
That group of aliens researched the wrong things at the wrong time.
Like the red dwarf when Lister's cat turned you.
Yeah. Oh, but that was millions of years of inbreeding that caused that.
Oh God.
I still don't know how the human side of it came from, when it's just a ship's cat. One cat managed to mate with who? Or what? Have you seen Red Dwarf?
I have not. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, The theory or the basis behind the series Red Dwarf was there's a mining ship. There's one guy, he gets arrested for smuggling on board a ship's cat, or his cat onto the ship, and he ends up in prison. He ends up in jail or stasis. While he's in stasis, there's a radiation leak, and it kills everybody on the ship apart from himself and his cat. Only his cat was left to roam the ship when this happened.
Oh,
And somehow the cat has evolved into a human, half cat.
Okay.
So surely evolution works with reproduction at the same time.
Yeah, obviously.
So what did the cat mate with to get to that stage?
Yeah, exactly.
Something wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's just the autism in me, but I see a problem with that.
I don't know. Wow.
I think we've traversed into Friday's show by mistake.
Yeah.
we've time travelled. God, we've done it. We've time travelled without realising.
Willow said, I'm getting into how you being saved.
Oh boy, she just said now.
I'm free.
Yeah, we've really gone down a rabbit hole, that's for sure.
It's okay. It's okay, Lois. You stay in the background. I thought I'd just let Chris Eubank say his piece.
Oh my God.
Well, we did manage to make it an hour and 58 minutes before it totally fell apart.
Yeah. Here you go. Well, Lois just said.
She said she's proud of the team.
Rabbit hole ourselves.
Rabbit hole ourselves. Oh.
So who decided to call them rabbit holes instead of wormholes? Why call them wormholes? Because they look like worms?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Why didn't they call?
Do they know what shape they are?
Exactly. And why didn't they call them snake holes?
Yeah.
Or tapeworm holes? They could be flat. They could be flat for all we know. So they could be tapeworm holes.
Tapeworm? Wait!
Oh my God.
That's Lingon.
Yeah, I can tell.
Oh my God.
And welcome to the comedy hour.
Oh dear.
Oh, it's right.
These,
Yeah, she is.
These were all. At least you didn't go to Turkey for them, Willow.
Yeah.
You stayed away from Turkey for them. The last thing you want is turkey teeth. You'll walk into a Turkish restaurant and ask for some baklava with turkey teeth. Hello, can I have some baklava, bro?
Wow.
But yeah. And my new show, Wayne's Comedy Half Hour, starts next week.
Wait, you would see? I would make Chris Eubank proud.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would. I'm sure she would.
Come on.
Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
Who said that then? Who said that?
Who said what?
Some Somebody said, was it your wife? Your
That was
partner?
Ellen. Yeah. Has it gone 11 o'clock because you turned silly?
Has it gone 11 o'clock because silly Wayne's come out?
Oh, dear.
Were you ever not hearing that? Just message Wayne.
Oh.
I have that ability.
I like to get people's brains going just as they're falling asleep.
That's my biggest.
Jill, where have you been? Oh my God, I haven't seen her. I mean, I saw her a few days ago, but geez, I haven't seen her on the network for a while. Definitely follow.
You have now. Oh dear. Yes. See, now Ellen said that, it's all calmed down.
Yeah.
It's ruined the moment.
So haven't we? But it's a tea like this, oh, can't move. Oh dear.
That was
the hand of God.
I can tell. Oh, you got a new phone. That's awesome. See, I didn't realize your phone went out because Jill, I actually did try texting you a few days ago, but I wasn't sure what was going on. But that makes total sense now. But it's good to hear from you. Okay, so all right, see. Well, it's tomorrow night, guys. We'll be doing what to do and not to do on an investigation.
There is one thing I do have to warn you about, and it just came to light to me, or it came to light earlier on today by somebody, and it is a good possibility that Optimus Prime may be joining us tomorrow night.
Optimus Prime.
So,
I'll tell you what. Let me give a quick call to my friend Megatron. See if we can get him on too.
so if at some point you hear wagons roll, then you know he's coming.
Yeah. See, I'll give a replay to all the shows. And Jill, I gotta admit, I mean, we've missed you. We miss having you on Fear Fans, so I'm glad to hear that it works now. But yeah, that's awesome. We've missed you this whole time. An investigation to make sure your teeth are in properly.
And you need to dull them down a bit as well. You can't have them too bright. Especially under UV lights.
Yeah.
Totally dark space, and all you can see is Lois's teeth shining in the darkness. We're like a beacon.
Well, thing about it could make her a vampire.
Yeah.
She is like
A beacon of hope.
You know I'm just messing with you, Lois.
so. What they were thinking of doing was putting a stepladder on the cliffs of Dover, getting Lois to stand at the top of the stepladder with a UV light and just smile. Yeah, we don't want to go there. There's some strange teeth looking at us.
You know what? Well, you know what they say about no false teeth. I'll save that for Tom's show. Jill, oh boy, I bet there's tons of what not to do for investigations. I think, well, and Jill already knows some of that because I've already talked about some of those things on some of the other shows.
The only problem is, though, Nick, I wasn't on that other show, and that's going to cause chaos tomorrow night.
Yeah. No, UV light will be a total nightmare.
See, it makes it a beacon in the night. You see, if you got these, you get these big white teeth. I
do have a UV. I mean, I do have a UV flashlight, so I don't know. Oh man.
Oh, they got all tangled up. What's going on here?
When the cat's away, Noreen Hill, they try to get me blacklisted. Yeah, it could be fun in a way. It could be. Well, actually, wait.
Oh,
What am I doing? You know what? Tell you what. Before we end for tonight, actually, wait. Yeah, before we end for tonight, I got a picture I could show with a UV light. So here, give me a second. Here, give me a minute. I'm looking for it. You know, not only is it funny, it's cool as hell too. Oh my god, it was already from 6 years ago. Jeez. I can't see what you're doing right now, Wayne, because I'm doing this. So
that's a good job.
Put it this way, Nick. I need some new eyeballs. I just blinded myself with UV. I'll just give my eyes a suntan.
Say what you were saying.
Oh, where the hell is that? Damn it! See, I'm like scrolling through like all these different posts, and I know it's around somewhere. I just can't find it. I'll give this one other try. And okay, so it's actually 2 pictures. Okay, is this it? Maybe. What the hell is it? I just had it here. I just saw it the other day, and it had something to do with the UV light.
Yeah, we don't want to see them ones, Nick.
Yeah, you say it, and then you sit, and then you're going to say, wow, that's an awesome picture. I mean, you never know. So, all right. I'm going to try
somewhere in the world, this is a family show. I don't know. Do you have a watershed in the States?
Do I have a what?
Do you get what they call a watershed? So certain TV programs can only be shown after a certain time.
I think we do. It's kind of hard to say for that one. But I think we do have them.
Yeah, it's things like over 16 type programs would be for after a certain time, and over 18s over here, anything that would be classed as violent or of a sexual nature would be classed as after 9 o'clock in the evening.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how they. I mean, if we have them, I'm not sure how they usually work over here. But that's a really good question, though.
To be honest, I'd love them to get rid of the watershed, because I couldn't think of anything better than eating my Sunday roast at 12 o'clock lunchtime, watching Stephen King's It. I think that'd be quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre while you're having a barbecue.
Yeah.
Here's Chucky. And now it's time for the play bus.
Willow's going.
Oh, what?
She's going.
Oh, she's gonna head out. Okay. Uh-oh. Too bad Lois is leaving now, because look who just showed up. What's up, Scott?
Yeah.
Very late. He's finished.
Shine your lightsabers. Okay, now what Lois here said. See, Nick in a kilt swinging his lightsaber. I am not even touching that one. I am not. Say, wait, but I just use on demand to watch.
There we go.
And nobody's going away for it. Holy bastard, you come in to annoy me. That's oh,
how does it go? How does it go? They'll be lowest over the white cliffs of Dover.
Yeah, It's frustrating, but I can't find these pictures that I have with the. I can't find these pictures of the UV light. It was funny and cool at the same time. I just don't know where they are. It would take me almost forever for me to find them.
See, Dame Vera Lynn was a time traveller. She knew Lois would like that.
Oh, funny one.
Oh shit! Wait, what? Okay, there it is. Wait, what the hell happened? Here, guys. Give me 1 second here. I'm having some issue right now with streaming. I gotta restart the page. I'll be back in a second.
Oh. Bye.
He's gone.
You know what it was, don't you? It was because he was looking for things. Here he comes. See, look, he found it.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know what was going on, but for whatever reason, the comments, I couldn't see the comments anymore. So, but now they're back. Good to see us, Scott. I'm late as I was baking the neighbor's nose. Okay. I'm not even gonna ask.
Whatever floats your boat, Scott.
Okay, Jill says, why didn't I think of playing Texas Chainsaw whilst having a barbecue? And Scott, as far as I know, yeah, I'm still good for Monday. Yeah, I'm going to be on Scott's show this upcoming Monday. Yeah, it used to be. Now I got a virus. What?
Mm.
We'll give it back then.
Yeah. You know. Share the wealth. That's all I can say. Let someone else have it.
Well, let it be somebody else's problem as far as I'm concerned.
That's what my mum used to do when a kid had chicken pox at school. It was all, you're going round to his house later. Why is that? You've got chicken pox. Exactly.
Yeah, we all done that. All of us.
Oh, wait a minute. No, see, gnome bathing is my favorite pastime aside from cat shaking. Why would you shave your cat to begin with?
Actually, I know a lady that shaves cats.
Wow.
But I can't discuss it on here. I'm sorry.
No, I've just had the mental image of that, and yeah, you don't mention it on this.
I'm just gonna say no comment on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. Poor kitty, definitely.
And I'm not on about that kitty either.
Yeah, I got my cat right over here, and I know better than to shave her off.
Well, I can gladly say, Scott, I've got
Go
two
on.
gnomes here that have been stuck under 5 years of garden growth, if you want to bait them.
Oh, I found one of the pictures with the UV light. Okay, finally. I've had this search like all over the place for it.
Yay.
I couldn't find all of them, but I found at least two. But you were talking about UV lights, Wayne. Well, now I'm about to give you something when it comes to the UV lights, and especially when it comes to shining on teeth or whatever. Give me a second here. Jeez, I cannot talk tonight. Give me a second while I'm uploading these. Okay, here we go.
Oh.
Just wait for the first one. Second one's done already. What the hell is this taking so long? It's just a picture. Why the hell is this taking so long? Oh, hey, Lois is back.
What's going on?
Do your gnomes have wellies on?
I do. You're just in time. Here's those pictures. You guys ready? So here it is when it comes to the UV light.
What flashy teeth?
Do you know? I leave you in the reins of the bloody show, guys, and he's bloody some chanter. I wanted to come on and show you my teeth.
Here's the other one we were talking. Here's the other one we were talking about before. The other one when it came to the UV with teeth out. This is probably the best you can come up with.
Do you know, Nick? Right, I'm jumping on quickly for 2 minutes, guys. Do you know what? I can honestly say that is my teeth. In fact, when you've got it perfect with the disco teeth.
Look at his teeth.
I know, Noreen. I said I'm going away for 2-3 weeks, and this is what I'm going to deal with.
Yeah. Hey, don't look at me. I didn't start this. And it does. It's funny. It actually does look cool at the same time. It does.
Well, guys, I'm going to bow out. What I'll do is I'll catch up with my team tomorrow night. But I'm taking 2 or 3 weeks off, guys, to recover. Wayne has the best.
Well, before you go, Lois, I guess Scott
yes, my
here
dear.
had a question for us. Do your gnomes have willies?
Listen, let's not give Baldy Bastard airtime.
Just finished a show of intellectual discussion. I came in.
To answer Scott, do your gnomes have wellies on? I think you've got a bit of a pet. I think he's got willies. Oh, willies. Oh,
yeah, willies.
Well, Scott, what you do in your spare time? I don't want to know. But guys, use all. Hi, Rita. I only be. But I hope you and Eric are well, Rita. But yeah, guys, I am going to bow out. I just want to say that I'm proud of my team. And thank you very much for holding the fort when I'm gone. If I don't come back to a show, it was nice knowing you all for 2 years. If I get blacklisted, specials are where we can't stop laughing. Jill, do you know what? Honestly, I share that thought. I definitely share that thought. You can't have a laugh in shows, there's no point in doing them. No point whatsoever. Because where would
what the hell is that?
All I can say is Among Us.
We will find you. Oh my God, I knew Scott was going to say this. If Lois quits, I'll take over.
Right. Noreen, thank you very much, darling. Rita, thank you very much. I'm glad that you're all right, darling. Scott, see if hell ever froze over, I would never, and I repeat, never, ever let you take care of the fucking shows. Because my shows would plummet right through the ground. In fact, it would be quite a banned podcast.
Yeah.
And unless you grow red hair, get big tits and long legs, you get no chance. You'll never fill my bits.
Where's that then?
Oh my gosh. Wait. Perfect match, Sir Nick by Steve colleague.
Wait, Wayne, can I just say you've got a fair pair of jugs.
Why, thank you.
Look at Steve.
Oh my God.
Right, guys, I'm going I'm going to bow because I'm starting to feel woozy.
No,
But
get yourself-
we actually do have to end this in another minute or so. So we got to
Yeah.
wrap
Yeah.
up as well. I got my other show in less than in an hour and a half.
This is the longest show we've done, I think.
Yes, it
I think
is.
I think it has. I think it
And
has.
I'm ready to
it
go
has,
now because I've got to
has
get
been.
5.
You've laughed too much, Lynn. That's what it is. You're busting for the toilet, isn't it? That's what it is.
Actually, yeah, it's like a hot water bottle sloshing about.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care, Lois.
Aw.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up because, like I said, we've definitely gone well over almost 2.5 hours now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've had a good conversation about a lot of really interesting things tonight.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, despite the comedy situation, we've covered quite a few good subjects, really.
Yeah, yeah.
I should have told Lois. Well, Lois is still backstage, so she's going to hear this. Actually, I did want to tell you guys, it's because I know she's going to be gone for about, she said 2-3 weeks. I wanted to let you guys know, not next week or the following week, but the week of the 22nd, which is on a Thursday. I will not be on those two, either that show or Friday, because I haven't even made this fully announced yet, but I'm excited to announce that I will be going to the Michigan Paracon later this August. So
Wow.
it's one of the biggest Paracons we got. I'm really, really excited about it. Speaking of which, who's also I didn't even really get a chance to really look to see who's all there. Hang on a second. This will just take a minute.
I'm going to be missing on that show as well myself because I'll be going to the Corfu Beachacon.
Oh, really?
Okay. You're on holiday.
Yeah. I'm on a holiday that week.
Yeah, I mean,
super.
I'm going to roast my eyeballs in Corfu.
Oh, nice.
That'd be great. That a bit of sun. I know we've had a little bit on the last few days, but I've missed a bit of it. So
I've already got my suntan. I've already gone brown already.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I needed to go and touch it up a little bit.
Yeah. Don't blame you.
So just so you guys know, I'm not going to read all of them because there's too many names. But this is a really great list of investigators that are going to be at the Michigan Paracon. A lot of them I already know, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them again. Amy Bruni's going to be there. Aaron Sagers, Dave Schrader, Chip Coffey, John Zaffis, Dustin Perry. The Ghost Hunters crew is going to be there. Mike Ricksecker, Mike, and who's the other guy? I can't remember. The two guys that do Tennessee Wraith Chasers, they're supposed to be there. Heather Taddy, Tim Shaw, Patty Negri. I mean, MJ Dixon, she's going to be there too. Andrea Perrin. I mean, they're Richard Estep. I mean, Tori are also going to be there too. I mean, it's a huge list, and it's going to be awesome. So I can't wait to see everybody at this event. So, but yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that 3 weeks from now, I will not be available for that one.
Okay, sounds fantastic. Okay.
I'll definitely take pictures. And actually, I thought there was one more person because he's a really good friend of mine, and he's also a good friend of Mike Ricksecker. Aaron's Brian J. Cano and Aaron. Yeah, he's going to be there too. So it's got a multitude of different guests. It's going to be awesome.
Brilliant.
Oh wait, okay. So she's just said. Okay, so Lois just said. Okay, so she'll be back. She'll be back that week, so that'll be fine.
Good.
Yeah.
You never know. You might be lucky, and I might be able to appear live from Corfu.
Yeah, you might be.
There you go. There you go. It'd be awesome if I'd be able to do some type of live too while I'm at the Michigan Paracon. So that would be great.
That would be it as well. Well, if Nick can get here from America, you can get here from Corfu.
Yeah, there's a difference because I'm plus 2 hours and Nick's minus 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when we start at 9 o'clock, it's actually 11 o'clock in Corfu.
Right.
Right.
So I would have to sit on the balcony and be quiet for once.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, yeah, we do have to end this though, because now we've gone officially for an hour and a half. I don't know if Joe is doing a show tonight, so hopefully he hasn't. But yeah, we're gonna end this though, because like I said, I got to. Oh, did you have something you wanted to say, Wayne, quickly before we get off? Or
No, it's fine.
all right, well, for everyone that's tuned in, thanks for hanging out with us. Definitely was a great show with what we talked about. And of course, obviously, with a good half hour of laughs, like you said, Wayne. And yeah, I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow night then. So you guys have a great rest of your night.
Yeah.
Good night,
Good
all.
night, everyone.
Nice, everybody. Thanks for coming along.
See you tomorrow.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.